Welcome to Copywriting Clinic number 12. We're getting up there. Today, excuse me, today we're going to explore sales funnels. And we wanted to do this to give kind of more of like a broad scope look at sales funnels because it's a huge part of copywriting. So many of the things that we've been learning about landing pages. We've done a little bit on email. We're going to be doing more in future weeks. All of these things are elements of your sales funnel. So today we're going to kind of do a broad scope. We're going to look at some examples of some more complex sales funnels, a little bit more simple, some that you could put into action for yourself really quickly. And yeah, we're going to go through some of like the basic components of sales funnels, and then in future weeks we are going to go more in depth on some of these different areas and components. All right. All right. So it's always good to start with the why. So why does your business need a sales funnel? Well, trust, trust, trust. I cannot stress that enough. From the get-go on these copywriting clinics, we've been talking about trust with your audience. And there's that saying that it takes a person on average about 7 times of coming into contact with your product or service before they'll actually make a decision and take that next step. So the process of a sales funnel helps to minimize that buyer risk. It helps nurtures them along, getting to the point where they're excited to take that next step, that they trust in what they're buying. So that takes a process. We've used the analogy of dating. You can't like ask somebody to marry you on a first date. You can't ask somebody, to do these things on the first date. So this is that way of nurturing them along. So a sales funnel also gives you the ability to target your ideal buyer rather than casting a wide net, hoping that you'll just catch anything. And this is what we've been talking about in previous weeks on your target market. So this gives you, rather than just like putting out just kind of a general ad straight to the point, like, hey, buy my product, just as you're like, marry me, even though you don't know me and don't know anything about me. You're also, rather than that wide net aspect, I want to touch on that because casting that wide net with that broad scope ad, you don't really know what you're going to get back from that, if anything. And part of that targeted marketing is also being able to hone in on who you want to work with. So the funnel gives that opportunity to really target those people, that ideal buyer, and nurture them specifically along. Do you have anything to add so far, Agnieszka?
Sorry. No, you're good.
Cool. Attention spans are small these days. You need to be able to capture your audience's attention and hold on to it. It's not enough to just like get them to stop scrolling on Facebook. As soon as like, oh, you give them something of value. We'll get into lead magnets in a little bit here, but you give them something of value. That can't just be the end game. You need to be able to hold on to their attention. They'll get that free thing and be like, oh, this is awesome, but they'll forget about you very, very quick. So the sales funnel is your way of being able to hold on to their attention. So there's 4 stages of the buyer journey. And this is kind of boiled down. You could really, I've seen more complex versions of this, but this is a really nice, like boiled down version of that buyer journey. And that's awareness, interest, decision, and action.
And hang on, because that step 1, awareness, that could mean 7 to 12 points of contact just to build the awareness. We're not even talking about buying. We're not talking about clicking. We're just talking about peripheral kind of, oh yeah, I saw this there, I saw this here kind of thing. And so awareness cannot be stressed enough.
Mm-hmm.
And also when you hear of a company, like say this autonomy thing, right? You might have heard of this on Facebook or other places, but if you just first hear this weird word associated with this weird group or this weird class or whatever, it doesn't necessarily give you any trust or ability to discern them from the snake oil salesman, right? Mm-hmm. So how do we know that the person or the company that we're seeing on Facebook is good,
Right. Mm-hmm.
And actually, I have a really good example. There is a skirt company that makes skirts, right? And I've been kind of looking at buying these skirts from them. And I wouldn't have trusted them except for I've seen the skirt on Willow and she told me about this company. So now when this company comes up, I'm like, oh, that's Willow's skirt. So I have instant recognition that I'm still considering buying one of these skirts because it's Willow's skirt, even though I've been sitting on the idea for a year.
Mm-hmm. Any questions about these? Okay. Well, so first we're
We only
gonna.
talked about one so far, so I don't know.
What's that?
We only talked about the awareness part.
Oh, that's true. That's true. Yeah. All right.
Interest.
Interest. Yeah.
Maybe I want to date them, but maybe they're an asshole.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Not
So
sure.
like, yeah, you look kind of cute, but I don't know. I don't know.
Let's go for coffee in a really public space, just to see.
Mm-hmm. And if you're if you're one of those people out there, it could be all right. Let me do my background check on you. Let's ask some of your friends. Let's see what they have to say. Minimizing that. What's that?
Let's check your Facebook history.
Yep. That's a common one these days. But all of this leads into, this is like in that point in time, in that interest stage, you have an interest, but you're still not sure. You're like, I don't know about the risk. I'm not really sure if I want to take the plunge. So you gain more information. And, this is the stage in the sales funnel where you're able to provide more of that information. You can provide testimonials and case studies, and you try and pique their interest. And, throughout this process, you're minimizing that buyer risk. So then getting into the decision.
And also building trust by giving them lots of gifts, right? Like lead magnets and education-based emails and, shout outs and reach outs and things like that.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. Where in here is the lead magnet? Is that part of awareness?
Interest.
Interest.
Because they have to give you, lead magnets are not free, contrary to popular belief. They actually cost your email address, and that's a pretty high cost sometimes. So they get your email address and they get to sell to you, and you get the free whatever it is.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, I like to think of it as a goodwill gesture. It's a gesture of goodwill.
But is it really?
You're offering value. That you're basically putting your hand out and saying, here, I've got some value for you.
But then they give you their email address, so they're essentially paying for it. It's not free, because then you have my email address to do with whatever you want.
I have a question for
but
you.
that is also another goodwill offer, isn't it?
Perhaps.
I'll give you your thing with the trust that you're going to give me something valuable.
Mm-hmm.
Brandon, what were you saying?
There's Gus. I was going to say, I'm working on a lead magnet, but I don't have any like product at the moment. But I was just thinking of building an email list. So the goal would be to get them to my site. I guess it would be my funnel, and then just prompt them to get a lead magnet, which I think most people, if they find their way to my site, will find it valuable. Then I'm just collecting emails, and that's really all I have time for at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
But that's okay.
Yeah, so, and we could look at that almost as like you're jumping to the interest stage, which isn't necessarily bad. Because you're doing what is within your capability to do right now, and that's wonderful. So I would look at so as an example, let's look at the awareness and interest stages in terms of we're going to use social media, we're going to use Facebook ads. So in the awareness stage, that would be more like asking people to like your page. You're not asking for an email address. You're not you're not even really giving anything away. You're trying to incite some curiosity. You might be able to give a little bit of value in your copy on whatever the post may be, but that's kind of like the awareness stage, is those kinds of engagement posts of you're just trying to get under their radar just so that they even know that you exist. So that's when then the interest stage is when you offer a lead magnet. You give them a little bit something extra. They in exchange give you their email address, and you're a little bit step closer to gaining more of that trust.
And in the interest stage, they know you exist, but they don't know if they want to trust you. So that's when they decide whether, so the moment of decision is when their trust meter goes tick, 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 and goes past the middle thing, click, and that's when they trust you. So that's when they make a decision.
Okay.
And some people make a decision to buy and don't buy. and
Yes.
sit on it for a few months. And actually, I heard of that in autonomy. I don't remember who said that. They were like, oh, maybe even Ross said that. She was like, I saw it, I knew it, but I didn't do anything. And then one day I was meditating, and right after the meditation, I opened my email and there was another email from Richard, and then I clicked. Then I was guided to click, right? So she saw it a year ago in season 1 because she's a follower of Rich, but she did not take action for a whole year, right? Or almost a year.
Mm-hmm.
Something.
I can think of a couple things in my own life right now already that like, all right, I've decided that I'm going to get this thing. I've decided I'm going to do this, but I'm still kind of in this like not ready for action phase yet. So I think everyone here, I would hope, can resonate with that a little bit. And so it is. It's
even with my mentor, Carol, that I worked with for 6 years like this, right? I was on her mailing list for 4 years before I even showed up to the intro session. When I showed up, it was the perfect time and all of that. That's why we started working together. But you know what I mean? 4 years, this woman
Well, in
stayed.
that 4 years, how many emails did you receive and how often?
Probably monthly or every couple months.
Okay.
And it was her photo and the teachers, the psychosomatic therapy teacher photo, and it said, oh, there's another intro session. I mean, she had intro sessions probably 3 or 4 times a year most of the time in the city. So that's probably how often I get it.
mm-hmm. And so that's the importance of staying on their radar. So if that person hadn't been sending you emails, do you think that you would have like really taken the extra step?
So that's an interesting question, because when it actually happened that when I met her in person, the first time I met her in person, it was one of my friends that worked with me at we were volunteers at this charitable organization. And she said, you would love that lady. You have to go see her. And I went because I already knew the lady, sort of. Like, oh, look, here's a pamphlet. This is really cool lady. I'm going on Wednesday. You want to come? And I looked at the pamphlet, and it was that woman who was in my email every few months, right? I was like, oh yeah, I know of this woman. I've been meaning to do something about it. Are you going? Let's go together, kind of deal.
Mm-hmm. I just had like just this last week, with so like the Highwire, Del Bigtree they're doing their, campaign to fund their new platform. And I want to support the Highwire. Well, when I first started getting the email, it's like, I'm not sure if I'm ready to like put the money out there yet. By the second email, I had decided, I said, I really want to support this and want to put my money out there, but it wasn't for my wallet at that moment. I was like, I'm just going to wait till the end of the week. It got to the end of the week, and if I hadn't gotten another email in my inbox, I would have forgotten. Like, just because, day to day, like we get busy, we get kind of sidetracked, we just start going in one thing after another, and it's easy for things to fall through the cracks. So I appreciate staying on my radar like that and popping back up. So I had already made the decision, but it wasn't until like getting some of those reminders that then I was like, oh, it's time to really take action. I'm ready.
I agree. That's a pretty good campaign because he seems like he's sending an email every 2 days.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, they're in like an intensive, like 2-week campaign right now, I think.
Is that too much for you guys, the every 2 days email?
I guess it would depend on what it is. Not for I had the same experience. I think I gave on the second email. Mm-hmm. 1 and 2 on the first, though. It's something you're interested in. It's going to be different than something. If I was getting an email every 2 days from something I was on the fence about, I would unsubscribe, and then I wouldn't even be on the list.
Right. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it definitely does depend. Do I need to expand on action anymore?
Action is the going all the way.
Well, I would like to say that I notice an interesting interaction here between the ADA cycle and the OODA loop, which is observe, orient, decide, and act. Mm-hmm. And I see how that applies to this. And the important thing that I think to note is that in OODA, it's a loop, right? So you're constantly going through the process and you're refining, you're retargeting. So you're observing the market, you're orienting yourself in the market, you're choosing you're choosing your market specifically, you're making a decision, and you're taking action, you're pulling the trigger on that. And that applies to this loop because you're applying that OODA process to this customer cycle over and over, right? So you're constantly you're nurturing each segment of your market and drawing them through that process by using the OODA loop over and over to retarget, to hone in, laser focus on specific markets. I just thought it was an interesting correlation, and I see how it applies here.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. Absolutely does line up. So I'm going to get into some examples here in just a minute, but really, really quick, what I want to do is just run through the general components. Now, this is a pretty simplified list, and I wanted it to be that way because, you know, we're going to look at some really complex sales funnels, and then we're going to get into some more manageable, more simple funnels. So just really, really quickly, and then we'll go through this again. You know, we need an entry point for them to find what you're offering. So that starts with some kind of an ad. It could be Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. I mean, and these are the places where your audience is at. No matter how much we hate social media, I'm one of them, that's where the audience is. So you have to meet your people where they're at. And side note, in future weeks, we're going to be doing a crossover with the social media team. And we're going to be learning a little bit more about the importance of social media, why you hate it and why you need it. So starting again with some kind of an ad, and this could also be like a Google ad too. You know, there's other routes in here, and so I wanted to include, there's things like YouTube, of course, that can be used. But the point then is, you know, to offer a lead magnet, to offer something of value. And this lead magnet, you would go to a simple landing page, which would have your email opt-in. That would trigger an automated welcome email, which would have your deliverable, your lead magnet. And this would lead into an automated, like a nurture sequence, which is a way of, you know, nurturing them along to the next step in their buyer journey. This could lead to something like a live webinar. I put optional because this isn't always a part of a funnel, but can often be a really good element. And then it's kind of like, what is that ultimate goal? Is it to schedule a consultation? Are you wanting them to immediately buy your product? Oftentimes doing something like a discovery call or a consultation is a really great way of getting them off the fence. Because oftentimes, even when they get to that point, they're still really on the fence and they need some help getting over. So that is your chance to like have a person-to-person opportunity to really show your value and show what you're offering and help them get over the edge. And if you don't get that full conversion at this step in the game, then there's a follow-up sequence that you could do to follow them up if they're still not sure, kind of helps them along the journey. Ultimately, the goal is then a conversion. So we're going to look at some examples, and I'm going to freak you guys out at first with a really like hilariously complex. This is Tony Robbins' sales funnel. I'm going to try and zoom in, and we're going to start on, oh, where'd it go? Where'd it go away? Okay. It's like funny to me how insanely complex this is. So, you know, it starts with like his website. We go into like a Facebook ad, and we'll just kind of go one route in this funnel here. So he's got several ads leading to this pre-recorded video, this auto webinar. And this can lead into more ads. This kind of gets into like retargeting. And in future weeks, when we get a little bit more into like social media marketing, retargeting, you know, this is an area where all of those people say when you're back in the awareness stage and you're just trying to get people to like your page, all of the people out there that have liked your page, anyone that has stopped and looked at any of these ads or any of these videos, you can retarget them later and have a more, so there's those different awareness stages of the buyer journey. This is where you get a little bit more pointed rather than having more broad scope in your ads. This is where you start to really get in and be a lot more targeted. I hope that makes sense. I'm not feeling like I articulating myself as well on that one. So we got into leading into the email opt-in. We've got a thank you. I mean, I can hardly even follow this. This is so crazy. I'm gonna be honest, you guys, I was almost presenting this kind of as a joke. Like, we can try and follow along with this, but this is ridiculous.
Let's look at one of mine. It'll be easier.
I would love to. I would love to.
Drawings.
Sure.
I did enjoy that example though.
Right?
Like the inside of Tony Robbins' mind.
I think that's called a vortex, not a
Sales vortex.
funnel.
Vortex. Well, you know, a funnel does make a little vortex as it spins down, right?
Uh-huh.
So, yeah, let me make sure that I got the right shit on the screen. Not the 10 tips of happier life, because that's just a shit show. Sorry, I'm working on this thing. It's crazy. Okay, let me see. This one's probably super simple. So this is a really simple way of this is just a one little part of Tony Robbins thing that he had there, where in one space he did a webinar and then he has the follow-up. So this is just that section that leads from the follow-up to the email, to receive email, right? To receive the email, the nurture emails is what I'm talking about. Eloquence is failing me as well today, Kara. We're lost, blind, leading the blind. So does anybody have any questions about this image I'm sharing on your screen?
Let's like walk through it a little bit. So we got the webinar announcement and Facebook ads to sign up.
So this is also for those clients who, this is sort of like an example I sent to clients who have a webinar, right? So it's just a sort of a visual. And so 5 weeks before the webinar, we need to start announcing and getting the Facebook ads going, right? So this is this section right here. And so throughout the 5 weeks, the people need to be reminded that the webinar is coming up, because there are so many webinars. And if they're really interested, you know, just like Kara, you need to be reminded. And it ramps up closer to the date, right? So at first you're sending them every 7 days reminders. Oh yeah, in a few weeks, in a couple weeks, in 3 weeks, whatever. But then it gets to Saturday when my webinar coming, Monday when at webinar in 2 days, Wednesday at webinar tomorrow, and then Thursday the webinar in 2 hours. Oops, messing with it. But you can see how it like ramps up just before the webinar is delivered. Versus here, it only went every week. So you don't want to be sending people emails every 2 days when the webinar is still 4 or 5 weeks away.
Right.
Comments? Questions? Suggestions? That's it.
I'm just going to say this is some gold.
What about this one? No. What about, no. What about this one? Okay, so this one has text messages interspaced in it, right? And this is actually a proposal that the guy tried to undercharge me, and I just didn't answer because it pissed me off. But well, I answered once, and then yeah, he said, if for me to afford it, you have to lower our prices by 2/3, and I just didn't even answer. Kara's laughing. Why are you guys so far away? I have to bring you closer. Okay. So what do you guys think of this? I don't know what to tell you. I don't know where should I start? What do I do? Kara, tell me.
let's walk through it like we did the last one.
All right. So this is a theoretical funnel that I never got to build for this real. Well, I've built it for other real estate companies, but this particular one for Mr. Hakan, I didn't. So so when the buyer, so what they had is they had the MLS listings, right, where they had houses. And when somebody emailed to ask about a specific house, they would enter this funnel for that real estate company in Toronto. And so when the buyer fills out the form, right, that there is a task, and that's why it was color coded differently. So there's a task to the rep. So that's not an email that goes to the client. That's an actual alert, or depending on the system, right? He was working with Infusionsoft, I believe. So that was a task that was set up to email to the representative. And then to the client, they get an acknowledgement email right away. You know what I mean? As soon as they fill out the form, yeah, we'll get back to you. We want to talk to you about this house you want to buy. And then the next day they get a personal message from the boss, because like, hey, thanks for your interest. I hope the rep treated you well or got back to you, whatever. And then they get 2 days later, because you don't want to right away overwhelm them with an email every day because they're new and they don't really have trust. And, you know, if you meet a new guy at the coffee shop and then he starts calling you every day, that's kind of creepy. So you gotta edge it slowly, right? So there's a 2-day timer before house buying tip number 1. And then they also get a text message at the same time. Now, I don't know, actually, if Kara, if you have any suggestions about that, because this is the standard, the industry standard or whatever, that they get the email and the text pretty much simultaneously. So they get the text on their email, on the phone, and then when they go home and they check their email or whatever, they get the email. But doesn't that seem like overdoing it a little bit?
To me, kind of, especially at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, if it was more, if I were to try and be utilizing both email and text, I wouldn't have them going out at the same time. Like I would probably send out the email first, and then I would send the text message as more of like a, hey, did you see this?
Yeah.
You know, a little bit later.
You should have a reason. So the email should be like to verify your account. Everybody's good with that. So use it for what it's good for. And then text is more get the message in front of them real time instead of waiting for them to check the email and taking the chance that they're just going to delete everything they see in the email. Text is more like spontaneous and like separated from the other noise sometimes, you know? So I wouldn't do them simultaneously. I would do them both, but I would have specific use cases, and I would use email first so they can activate their account. And then from that intentional activation of the account, you can stay in touch more personally on their text. That would be my impression.
Yeah, and I've done that before as well. But so I haven't worked with SMS a whole lot. I've mostly just worked with email. When I've worked with SMS, it's been for companies that had like memberships and profiles and stuff. So it's really super easy to update your profile and stuff for text messages. And it made sense.
I've got a question. Is it possible that you could just have them opt in to what they feel more comfortable with? So it could be either or both, or
yeah, you can.
One.
But most owners don't want that, because most owners want to be able to, like business owners want to be able to reach their clients everywhere. Right?
All right, so I do email and SMS marketing, and I use SMS more sparingly, and I try to have it something that they can click and watch rather than click and read. And I use email for when I want them to read something, and I use SMS for when I want them to watch something.
That's a good way of doing it.
Yeah, thank you.
It's a very good way of doing it.
Yeah, because the phone is like more immediate, like there's a sense of gratification tied to it. They just click play and they're good on their next step for a while. Whereas email, like when you're reading it, you kind of have to scroll and like pay attention to it. It just doesn't do it by itself, you know? So I try to give them the easy thing on their phone and the more challenging thing on their computer, because it seems like the appropriate workspace.
Definitely.
So I have a question for you, Richard, as a business owner, because this is something that I run into a lot with segmentation, and I just wanted your take since you're here and actively talking. So a lot of the time people segment their customers, right? They'll have this group and that, say in autonomy, you have tragedy and hope, and then we have autonomy, and then we have, on the fence, kind of groups, right? But most of the time what I find is that even though the segmentation is in place and even though everything is good, when the owner crafts an email, say it takes them $50, it costs them $50 to craft a really good email and put it in the system, right? And it's an email about a webinar or something, right? And then the email is sitting there, and then I ask, okay, so which group do we send this email to? They're like, oh, this one, no, this one. Actually, just send it to everybody because I need to be able to reach everybody. And then the whole work put into the segmentation kind of goes out the window because every email is like, oh, no, don't eliminate those people, send it to everybody. So where's that come from, and how do you understand this kind of thing?
All right, so the power of segmentation is being able to present people with a custom tailored delivery of information in a drip, right, over time. So for instance, if you segmented on personality type, you'd be serving up the same content in different ingredient sets, different proportions, Like for the emeralds, they just need to see the numbers, and if the numbers make sense, they'll probably go ahead, right? But the ruby's going to need something about competitiveness or like this, you know, things of their personality set, right? So you can use that to educate them, use the segmentation for education and relationship building. But when it comes time to make an offer, you should blanket the offer across all those groups, and you don't necessarily have to write it in their voice because you've already built a relationship with them. Does that make sense?
That means
So it's like also and, but there's
That's
specific places you want to use it.
But that means making 4 emails. So instead of $50, it's now costing $200 to.
Not necessarily, because once somebody writes the first email, it's just about really rearranging it and adding some spices to it. It's the same content.
Yeah.
Right. You probably just have a different lead. You probably, if the honesty is, you probably have a different headline, a different first line, and maybe a different ordering of operations, but it'd be the same content. So once somebody wrote it, we could just consistently be like, here's the shuffle. For Emerald, it's logos, ethos, pathos, mythos. And for the Ruby, you got to go mythos, pathos, logos, ethos.
Can you write that down? For
No,
each
I just
one?
made it up.
I know,
I
but
just made
I
it up.
want it written down. I know you don't have pen and paper. Where's your cards? The little cards?
Look, did you see the Mr. Rogers video a couple weeks ago that was floating around in the chat? It's called like the Persuasion of Mr. Rogers or something like that. I think Gabriel posted it.
I didn't catch that one.
Okay, so it's a famous circumstance. First off, there's a great documentary called Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, because the movie with Tom Hanks is Won't You Be My Neighbor, but the documentary about Fred Rogers is called It's a Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. And that documentary is fantastic. And in there, they show how Congress was going to cut off funding for public broadcast system. And they had this really hard-nosed senator up there grilling everybody. And then here comes Fred Rogers, who totally disarms this guy, almost has him crying. And then the guy gives him more than they were asking for. It was a beautiful use of rhetoric for the benefit of children around the world. It was awesome. So it's like this epic part in history. It's like there's real time use of these things. So in that video, they analyzed. He went, you know, logos, ethos. So he built out logic and reason, and then he brought like authority to that to be like authority, you know, says this. These are substantial sources. And then he went into the pathos, making it in like an emotional connection with this guy, right? So the guy, the congressman, he's like a ruby emerald. And so you watch Fred Rogers, it's picking a lock. It's lock picking, right? Like that guy is locked, but if you want to open him, he's not going to open himself. He's going to tell you no. So if you want that lock to open, like here's the verbal sequence that unlocks and gets to his heart. The guy has a heart. Fred Rogers used words, got in there, had a conversation with that guy on a heart level, and then that guy came back up to like the reason and logic situation. It was like, here's your funding plus an extra $2 million. So it was like 22 million that he got.
Nice.
Wow.
Was that documentary Won't You Be My Neighbor? Is that the one you're talking about?
Yeah, well then the maybe the Tom Hanks version is Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. They're both from his song, right? So both titles come from the Fred Rogers song. Now, Brett Veinotte is in the Tom Hanks version. He's in the last scene of the movie. He's in the background.
Huh.
And I watched it for like 15 seconds, and I was like, Tom Hanks as Fred Rogers really creeps me out, and I don't want to ruin my brain, so I turned it off. But the documentary is smashing.
You get over it like 30 seconds in. It just, your brain adjusts.
It's like he was around before I was born, so he was really famous, and I grew up in Pittsburgh, and that's where he made the show. So it was like on all the time, and like the mailman on the show, he came to my school when I was a kid, so I remember that stuff. And he helped kids deal with like complex emotional situations in the world. Like in the documentary, he has to explain to the children why they just shot Martin Luther King and Bobby Kennedy and stuff. And so it's like, here's heavy duty adult, like the adults around these children are dealing with this trauma. So therefore the kids are also dealing with it. What are they seeing and how do you help them deal with it? Right? These were the things behind the scenes that drove the content of the show. But this is a copywriting clinic, and I don't want to distract from that.
I wish that somebody would write down the pathos logos sequence for each of the.
We have to discover it so we could discover it together, and then we'd have to try it and be like, is this the right combination to pick that lock?
I felt right? It felt right. It felt true. So
there's a good chance. Like we have some examples. There's probably other people who have already figured this out. But now that we know to look for it and why it's valuable and how we would use it, now it's interesting, right?
Yeah.
That's the difference.
So back to the things. What else do you want me to show from my screen before I stop this nonsense?
Oh, what else you got?
This one. What about this one?
Sure. It's a survey based.
So this one is sort of following the system that I learned at 6th Division in Phoenix when I went there to study nurture campaigns. And so for every action, there are 3 reminders, like up to 3 reminders. And then the last reminder always says, oh, we won't bug you about that again. Again, to build trust, right? Because you're being repetitious. And then, sorry, we didn't mean to be repetitious, but. And in this one, we have educational email tips, right? 1, 2, 3. And in those first 3 tips, there are no call to actions. It's just pure education, right? Mm-hmm. The call to action comes in email 4, where you've gotten this content, you've gotten these 3 emails. I hope you enjoyed it. Here's a way we can help you out with your problem. And then we have 2 reminders for each one. So it becomes a sequence of 6 emails, 3 educational emails, a call to action or, an offer, and then 3, couple reminders. And then it goes back to educational emails. So if there are people who have different motivations for a specific product or whatever, you can hammer those motivations in the series, in a little 3 email series for tips.
Nice. And I'm glad that you're bringing this up because in an email marketing course I took a while back, they talked about having with your email sequences, having about 75% being purely just nurturing, just providing value and not asking for anything in return. And that the other 25% is actually a call to action, actually making an offer. Would you agree with that?
Probably. Mm-hmm. You're asking me for numbers, so it's like really over my head. But how they feel about it, I can tell you about.
Yeah, she's a pearl. You got to ask her about like chakra colors or something like that.
You're a pearl, Richard.
Well, that was my understanding. Is for every like 3 or 4 nurturing emails, just providing exactly like some educational content, providing some value, not asking for anything in return, and then maybe 1 or 2 actual providing an offer. That's what I've learned. I like how you do the reminders though, because it's so easy to put out an offer, but then for it to people in their attention spans, you just kind of go about your day and you forget. I like the reminder aspect of that.
How's this one? Do you like this one?
It's fuzzy because of how we've had to zoom in on it.
No, it's fuzzy altogether. It's pointless. Like, look at it. It's freaking infusion stuff. What could you possibly find in it? It's grandma's drawers, and every drawer has different shit in it, and you have no idea what's in it. Now, sales funnels and email funnels are slightly different. All right? All right. This is an example of a sales funnel. If we can zoom it in. So these people also get emails in the email automation, but this is the sales automation where if they click on an email or if they request an appointment, they go into the first box, or maybe on nurture is the box where they actually are nurtured, right? And then if they click or request an appointment, they become an offer, right? And then if they talk to the person and actually sign up, they go into the green one, right? So this screen is basically taking the contact and looking at the contact journey through the sales aspect of it, as opposed to the email aspect of it. All these people are also like, this is ActiveCampaign, the screenshot. So there are automations.
I was just going to ask, are we looking at Confusionsoft or ActiveCampaign? What am I looking at here?
This is ActiveCampaign. ActiveCampaign is a little more visual than Infusionsoft. That's why it's better for examples.
That's why Confusionsoft is confusing. Less visual.
And when they misspelled the word keep, that did not really help them at all. So yeah, in ActiveCampaign, these little icons on the left, they take you from different aspects of it. But this is the sales funnel of it. And then there was this one also. So this is a more complex one. Let me see if I can make this happen for you guys. So this is a more complex one where it's an expediting company and they're prospecting companies. It's a very specific target market for this one. So they're prospecting companies, and they have these people that they're reaching out to, these people that they're assessing if they're a good fit, good client, because like I said, very specific target market. And then developing an offer for the ones that pass. Then the purple, negotiate quote, right? And then the orange, submitted quote. And then the sixth one, purple, implementation. And it looks to me like from this funnel, because I don't actually work with it, I just set it up, looks like the implementation just takes them out into a different place because there's no people in the number 6, but I know that the company works quite well. So they probably just changed their mind about this last section. So yeah, so everybody goes through the email funnel is also taken to this kind of view, and which stage they're at. And it's really good for salespeople to see which clients are at which stage, because as a salesperson, when you wake up in the morning, you go to work, you can see, which ones submitted a quote need a follow-up, which ones are in the middle of negotiation, and which one they need to have, reach out to. Any questions before I close my screen share? Give it this gavel back to Kara.
Anybody overwhelmed?
I'm just gonna stop.
Yes, a little bit.
Well, I'm going to show a different
kind. Growing then.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that with email automation, we're going to have a few different clinics on it, because we're just like, I'm looking at the time and we barely got started.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Everybody, like the majority of the components that we're talking about in here, we have not gone in depth with yet. And that's something that we are going to be doing in future series. And we're going to need to do like a whole series on email marketing, because there's so much to it. Yeah. Yeah.
And we were brainstorming yesterday about the different types of funnels, and we had some, like Kara and I's experience don't quite overlap. She does stuff I don't do, I do stuff she doesn't do. So that's interesting. So we have a lot to teach you guys.
Let's look at another one. So this is another visual. I zoomed in on this a little bit so you can kind of see what we're doing here. So there has 2 points of entry. The Facebook ad, which we've talked about, and then there's also the website opt-in, but they go to the same places. So the ad, you end up at this opt-in form, which is where you provide your email address so that you can get the lead magnet. That's what the ad is doing, is offering the lead magnet. And then 2 things happen. This goes to, you can get, this particular one, this is actually, I'm going to make a comment on this. So this particular one we're looking at leads to 2 things. Basically, they have 2 ways to get that deliverable. They can get it with a direct download automatically as soon as they put in their email address. And then it also triggers this email chain. But something that we've learned from Sabri Subi recently is that he is actually against doing the immediate gratification of that immediate download, because it does not train them to check for your emails. It doesn't train them to open up your emails. If you give them that immediate gratification, they don't care about the welcome email that showed up in your inbox for the most part. So, maybe if like they got so much value out of that lead magnet, then maybe when they see your email, maybe they'll be like, oh yeah, I want to see what else is there. But if you only deliver it within the email, that's training them to open up your emails and get used to receiving emails from you. So that's his logic. Because we, for a long time, like Joshua and I working with this, we've done this. We've done that, providing the immediate gratification. They can instantly download. And only just recently with the quantum growth course that they've been going through, have we learned that Sabri Subri recommends against doing that.
So how's that working? Do you have any data or stats on this?
Richard might be able to speak to that. I believe when we changed that, we were starting to get much more higher open rates for like the 19 skills for opening up the emails. Do you have any comments, Rich?
Yeah, it's best to do what Sabri says. It's like instead of Simon Says, we play Sabri Says. And if you think that you know better than Sabri, then you check your ego and say, wait a minute, we didn't spend $30 million refining this process. Maybe we should just do what he says. And thus far, I've been very pleased with the results. Because I was like, those email templates, I was like, these are a little, But then once you do customize them, here's what I know. People write back to me every day thinking that I'm writing to them in real time.
That's going to be
That's how I know it's working, because every day I've got 10 emails. Sometimes people just say thanks. Sometimes people have questions. Sometimes people are like, I'm interested, but not till later this year or whatever. And then I usually, respond personally and give them a couple links, because I know now every time they see another automated email in the sequence, they're probably going to think it's still me emailing them real time. Like I have time to do that, which is a beautiful thing. That's what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to mimic me having that personal touch, but I can do it 1 to thousands of people instead of 1 to 5 or 10 if I was doing it all the time,
So do you still respond on your own, or do you have your assistant
No.
do it now?
No, I mean, right now I still respond on my own because that adds a lot of value to the process.
Well, and like magical energy too.
Yeah, because I'm being spontaneous and, witty, and I, make them laugh, have fun.
And,
Did you guys, this is a quick tangent, but last week there was a snafu with a Zoom call, and I couldn't get this woman able to connect, and I sent her the link a couple times, and finally, after a half hour, I was just like, hey, it's not working out today. Let's reschedule. And she sent me like 5 scathing emails back. And I told Joshua, I'm like, blacklist this person, because they don't need to read our emails anymore,
80% that takes or 20%.
When he says scathing, she was using profanity. She was like, F you, F this process, F it, F you, you're an effing prick. Like she sent many emails that basically were an F you to Rich. And he spent a lot of time trying to be patient and help her get on the call. And then he walked out to me and he said, you know what, after that email chain, she'll never get on my schedule. And it's better to figure it out now.
Rich.
But then a day later, she wrote an email. And what did she say in the email?
First, I saw that she's like, there's 3 emails from her in my inbox. 2 of them are her on my schedule now. And I was about to just text Joshua. I'm like, now this lady's trolling me. She's jumping on the schedule. Let's cancel these out. But then I went back and I read the email that she sent. And it was very short. And she's like, she apologized and expressed that she's having a tough day. And, she's really interested and still going through the course. And I was like, good for you. I said, I admire your resilience in recovering from this situation. You've got moxie. And I'd be happy to do a call with you. And then Joshua was like, what?
No discounts for her though. Because she sounds like we're going to have to babysit her a lot.
We'll have to have a candid talk. It's like, hey, would you, obvious, because what I felt like saying, do you feel like this type of reaction is holding you back in life and it's happening on a regular basis? Because, that's your issue. The first thing that people bring you is their issue. Their objection is their issue, right? If the objection is the cash flow situation, that is their issue. It's going on all over the place. But my tangent's done.
Sabri was also saying, not giving them that immediate download in that feedback that he gave to Joshua.
Oh, you must have just hopped on. You must have just hopped on the call, because we covered that a little bit ago.
Well, no, I was just saying that part of what he said. I've been on the call for a little while. Was that they'll stay on the page too, like, and also if the email doesn't get delivered like right away, that they'll
stay on your page and like keep soaking up the value that you put into your landing page.
And they get to the thank you page. So if they click through and you give it to them right away, then they're done. The dopamine is hit. But if you send it to their email and then they're watching your thank you page video, which for me, I think it's a 40-minute video, right? They're probably just doing that. And a lot of students, when I talk to them, like, you know, what was your path to get here? And they're like, you know, I clicked this, and then I watched the Pork Fest video, and then I did this. And yeah, so that's a valuable part of the process, and it helps to solidify that relationship instead of making it ephemeral and like a quick hit and gone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's cool. I'm still worried about that woman and how much babysitting she's going to need.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a roll of the dice for sure, you know.
Yeah. Make that
but
part of the build system. Babysit difficult clients. Build orange.
I know. So,
your job is to find the most difficult person in all of autonomy and turn them around. And then you get.
I have a student that's coming in, and he works. This is his situation. He's like 34. He's changed tires for the last 14 years, 6 days a week, 10 hours a day. He has no hobbies, and he wants desperately out of that. And he wants a future. And I was like, dude, this is a great success story.
So he at least has one hobby, listening to you on the internet.
I'm like, this is a good success story. That's a good before picture, you know, because you're not going anywhere fast in that job. It's going to continue just like it is, you know. But he also backpacked across Europe and Central America, which means he knows how to talk to people. He knows how to listen. He knows how to get his needs met, you know? And so he's got a lot of raw potential. So that would be a good like success story. But yeah, we don't want people that are difficult. We want people that are like wanting to make the change, and they're going to take the actions.
Reverse crabs in a bucket.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So we've looked at some pretty complex sales funnels. I don't want to go too crazy with more examples because there's still a little bit more to go through. What I wanted to show you, because I wanted to start with some of those more complex funnels first so that you can see really what's possible when you have, you know, the time, energy, whether you need other people to help make it happen. So what I just found just recently, actually, it was Jim Hood showed me, he's got this, he's been using it for a handful of years, but it's this simple 4-step funnel. Takes prospects from click to client in less than 48 hours, it says. But what I liked about this was the simplicity, which is why I wanted to share it. And essentially what this does, it doesn't necessarily show you, this kind of demonstrates what it does. So the process of this 4-step sales funnel starts with an ad. The ad goes to a really simple landing page, just like you're seeing right here. And the landing page, I believe it goes to this landing page. And then it's a pre-recorded video, so like a pre-recorded webinar. And what that does is entices people to sign up for a for a live webinar in the future. So that's that like simple 4-step funnel. And you could definitely modify this kind of style, this 4 steps for what you're offering. So I just wanted to kind of put that out there as that there's lots of complex funnels. There's also a lot more simple funnels that you could put into motion on your own really easily. Questions?
Yeah, Daniel. The Great Books Club.
Oh, is that happening today? I never know which week it's on. That's totally fine.
If Dustin was here, he would be like.
Actually, he's got it. We're still an hour away, Agnieszka.
Oh, are we?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Hey,
He gave
by
us
the
2
way,
hours.
I got a package from Daniel. It's on my desk upstairs because I wanted to record a video when I opened it, and I just hadn't got the chance yet. But I did peek at his book, and if you guys haven't seen it yet, it's really impressive, and I think you guys will really like the acknowledgments.
Hey, dude,
Cool.
will you set up a special bookshelf in your house for student books and just put all of our books in there?
For sure.
Cool.
I do have available some examples of different kinds of lead magnets that we've created, if that would interest people to take a look at.
Absolutely.
All right.
Yep.
This, I've got a couple that Agnieszka sent. This is a great, so tell us about your checklist.
This is a very old lead magnet that has not been updated in 10 years. This is just an example. Modern setup would probably work better, like modern graphics and stuff, because like I said, it's more than 10 years old. But a checklist is a really cool way of doing a lead magnet, because first of all, they get something that they can use, right? They can physically use it, right? Whether they use it electronically or print it out and write on it, they can still physically use it. This particular checklist is created, designed to have them need me at the end of it. So yeah, sure, it's a checklist. If you're starting your business, do you know these things that you need to know about your business? So, and again, this was 10 years ago. I probably could set it up better now. But in these two columns on the right, the person who prints this out or has it on their Adobe, they can put check boxes where they know, okay, written communication. Yeah, I'm a writer. Got that. Database management. Okay, let's call that Agnieszka girl, and she can explain what the hell she means about this thing, right? And yeah, when I had it up, it worked well, but I'm a little lackadaisical, so just people come to me, and I don't necessarily send them lead magnets. And see, this was made 10 years ago, because you can see the yellow was all the way to the edges 10 years ago, but the Windows updates have messed it up or something, because it used to be all the way to the edge of the square.
Nice. I like the checklist idea. I haven't utilized that myself before, and I would like to do that. I got another one from you. Body language basics report. Agnieszka.
Yes, I'm here. I was just replying. I was just sending. Okay. Yes, this is my body language basics. So the idea for this was when I first started my business 10 years ago. This was to talk about the communication and effective communication, because I'm a psychosomatic therapist. So I study body language and gestures and what you're communicating without communicating. For example, a lot of girls and some men, when they communicate, when they gesticulate, they don't bring their elbows out to go here or there. They kind of keep their elbows thing and like do the T-Rex gestures, right? And that is a symptom of somebody who doesn't really want to stand out too much, kind of wants to keep themselves small, is not really self-confident, but really wants to share that information, right? And so your body does this, but if you're not aware that your body does it, then other people can see it as insecurity or lack of faith in yourself, or just not knowing what you're talking about. There are different presumptions that you can jump to based on your body language. And all it is because, when you were little, your parents didn't listen to you or some shit like that.
So funny.
So
I totally
really
do that.
Space. You sometimes do that.
I absolutely do that. I've never thought about it before until you just talking about it just now. But
yeah, so when I work with a lot of people in autonomy, I like, especially the women in autonomy, right? And I've said that to Deirdre and I've said that to Willow, take your space. This is your space. This is your aura. Your aura takes up this space. This belongs to you. It doesn't belong to the person next to you. And so if you want to seem confident and poised, take your whole aura, really stand up in your own power, as opposed to just hiding in the corner and your bubble is over here somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, we can do a session if you want about the deeper reasons, but I'm not gonna, that's a whole other story.
Mm-hmm.
But it's making myself small because nobody will accept who I really am in the world. And for both men and women, it's just keeping yourself small.
So what was the goal of this lead magnet? You're offering your services.
So I was working with people who had a lot of workshop leaders and presenters at the time, friends of Carol's and stuff. So they were my first clients, and because they were workshop leaders and presenters and I was a master therapist, I thought I would help them with my psychosomatic therapy knowledge. And a lot of the people that this was aimed at already knew about psychosomatic therapy and what it does. So all they wanted is me to analyze and examine their delivery, their videos, or whatever.
Mm. Oh. All right. This is one that's still, the design is slightly in progress, but this is for Content Safe that we've been working on recently. And so this is the title, #1 tool to keep you from getting deplatformed and 3 hidden keys to fortifying your content. So this is aimed at content creators, specifically in the alternative media community that are definitely at high risk of being deplatformed right now. So this is that like worm on a hook, trying to get their attention, because there's so much censorship happening right now, and not a lot in, and the solutions to this censorship are less than ideal. So, and unknown, really, that's the biggest thing, is that like it's so many creators don't even know that there is a possibility of getting this kind of service, getting this kind of help. So this is really like speaking directly to their pains while also giving them some ways. So this is like some alternative platforms that they can go and put their content up. So it's got a mix of like educational and really just speaking to their problems. And this also is, so this is one of those things we're working on the text size. This is going to get increased in the newest version, but giving some really nice tips that they can do. And this also then has that way of kind of like Agnieszka with the checklist of, this is also working to present Content Safe as the authority, as the expert in this field, because this is, you know, asking, you know, you've got to have your media team doing all of these things. You have to have them checking and monitoring your channels all the time. And it kind of gets down to like, oh, wait, you don't have a media team? You don't, and if you do, don't they have better things to do? So this, again, it's putting Content Safe in that position to be the solution, to be the ones that they go to get the help. Any questions on this one? Okay, we'll go completely other side of the spectrum. This is for the Hindu monk that we work with, and this was based off of our audience research. So I haven't even really mentioned this yet, but everything that you're building here really needs to come out of that research. That research phase is so important. So when we were doing research for this particular client, we were looking at spiritual seekers and people out there that we could attract. A big thing that kept coming up in the research was the idea of love and not feeling worthy of love. That statement ended up going directly into our advertising, and it's been going really well because we're speaking their language directly back at them. So this was Design of Life of Love, a guide to living from the heart, and just gives these like different tips on things that you can do in your everyday life to love yourself more, to bring more love into your life. So I like looking at these different examples because they're very unique to the industry. So like really think about what you're offering. Do that audience research. Find out what are the things going on in their head so that you can craft something that's really going to speak to them. Go another side of the spectrum here. This one is for a company that they provide cable railings materials. And what they do is they buy things in bulk, and they're able to, how they say is like one of the biggest complaints out there is that cable railings are so expensive. And it's because there's like a ridiculously high markup that, no. Okay. Can somebody mute?
Sandra, we like you. Sandra.
Oh, I think I can do it. I have the power. So with this company, they, like I said, they noticed that the markup on sellers, you know, providing the materials for cable railings, the markup was like ridiculously high, in insane amounts. So they discovered that they could buy these things in bulk and they could provide them at a much lower cost. It's very geared towards people like with DIY kind of things. But one of the things in all of our research that we found out is this misconception on how cable railings are so expensive. So this is what we geared our lead magnet around. Why they're not nearly as expensive as you think. And it's, you know, and it also then puts Coastal Cable in that position, because they're the reason why it's not as expensive as you thought, is because of how the service that they provide.
So
So
they didn't have a logo on a clear background, or what?
what's that?
I wish their logo was not in a square.
Yeah.
Like the background was blue and the logo was just there.
Yeah. That's the logo. But we went into all this, and we only launched this, oh my gosh, it's been about a week. And when I checked yesterday, they had 150 new leads in going through the email sequence. So it's effective. And again, this is because we took the research that we did, and we were able to discover, you know, what were the most common barriers to people wanting to have this kind of look on their deck. And we were able to speak directly to that. And it's going over very, very well. I have two other images and I don't even know what they are. Oh, haha, we already looked at those. Okay.
Wait. Willow has a new image for that one that she's been redoing throughout this meeting.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Well, I want to really quick, let's go ahead and just wrap up this whole, I just want to go through, I put like 5 or 6 really nice articles in this handout today. I encourage you to go check them out. This one, like Epic Lead Generation Ideas That Would Grow Your Business, has a really nice list of like lead magnet ideas, different things that you could use for a lead magnet. I definitely recommend that. Facebook sales techniques that'll change the way you use social media forever. I have not actually read that one through yet. I glanced over it and it looked like it had a ton of great information, so I threw it on in here. 4 strategies that reduce buyer risk. This was a good one. How do you use lead magnets at every stage of your sales funnel? So this kind of takes that lead magnet idea to another level. The ultimate checklist for creating white paper. So that's for creating kind of like the lead magnets that we were just looking at, more text-based and educational. And what is a sales funnel? Examples and how to create one that I found from the Daily Egg that was pretty valuable as well. So check out those resources when your time allows. And practice, map out your sales funnel. So start by just thinking about these questions. What is the ultimate goal and how can you help your prospect get there? What immediate problems can you help them solve with a lead magnet? And this is where your Halo research comes in. And then what form would that lead magnet take? Would it be a PDF, a video, a checklist? What would it be? So just start thinking about these things. I know we've looked again at some complex funnels today, so maybe I don't want you to get overwhelmed at thinking about mapping out your entire funnel, but just start thinking about these things and how it would fit in say like a visual. You could make like a little flow chart. How you decide to do that is up to you.
I did it as you were speaking. I made myself a little graphic. This was great.
Nice.
Really helpful. Also enjoyed seeing the content safe lead magnet. I had one question. Everything's a PDF. Is that how you send it out? PDF is preferred?
Yeah, when it comes to like text-based, I would go with PDF.
How do you feel about infographics, or is that a no?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
I've made some.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Quizzes can be really fun too for lead magnets. I've seen those as a nice little opt-in way. It's definitely, I think they have to have some real value to them. When you have some really just, I don't know, simple, bland quizzes that the result that I get out of it doesn't really give me anything, I don't have any interest in opening any more of their emails. So, but quizzes can be really fun as well. Any questions, comments? Cool.
So I sent you the picture from Willow.
Okay, let me open it up.
And she's going to hate me because I just realized there's something else wrong with it. I've been kind of giving her feedback back and forth for layout and stuff. But now I realize that the last line is not what it should be.
I really like this. I like how this turned out. I still,
I'm really not happy with the alignment. It looks weird to me. It looks like I just threw 3 different pieces of text randomly. Like it doesn't seem balanced to me.
I would definitely center it. That'll help. centering the text
Okay.
rather than left
Okay,
Okay,
align.
thank you.
Hang on. Oh, where is the centered one? One sec. There was a centered one and I had to uncenter it because it didn't work.
Oh.
Where is it, Willow?
Hold
Oh,
on.
women. Never mind. Duh. Sorry, you were in the wrong chat, or in the not in the wrong chat, but in a different chat. So copy link, Kara, paste link, boom, boom.
All right. Oh, that looks better.
See, I thought that was just confusing. And also the symptoms seem to pile up, that like, that's not a call to action. Like, why would I?
It's still, it's like when I said earlier, it seems like incomplete. Like it's not the, like the power statement to exactly whether it's a call to action or just some kind of, it doesn't compel me to want to do anything with the email that I see.
I'm just like, yeah, my life sucks.
Well, maybe that's the last statement is something along the lines of the symptoms seem to pile up, but that doesn't mean you have to, you
But
know,
it's not forever.
wave the white flag or something like that. I don't
Mhm.
know what's a better word for that, but
A lot of words, but yeah.
And I was like, what are you going to do about it?
I like that one.
Oh, what are you gonna do about it instead of the symptoms pile up?
Well, I would even, it could even add to it. Like the symptoms seem to pile up. What are you going to do about it?
Nice. That's good for boys. Gentlemen?
Hold on. I can add that real fast. I'm actually still on. I have an open copy, so I can edit little
Nice.
things instead of starting the whole thing over. But
Starting the whole thing over is not happiness.
no,
Do
not
you
when you're
think it
starting the
would,
whole thing over 3 or 4 times.
Agnieszka, do you think it would help to put a little bit of space between this, do you find yourself, and then have like the 3? I'm wondering if like a little, you mentioned, and maybe I misunderstood you, but you mentioned something about it being a little confusing. Was that having to do with how this was lined up?
So I had her on like left justify it, and then I didn't like that. Like I did find it a little confusing. And at one point we had the same amount of space between do you find yourself in the next line and between inconveniences in the next line. Like, you know, it was like 1 space 3 space 1. So that could be good too. But Willow, this is a process, like making graphics like that. It's not like you're going to look at it and it's going to, your answer is going to pop in your head. It's going to be like, oh no, move that a little, move that a little, move that a little. And then eventually it feels right. But I don't know how to explain how to get from what is this to, wow, it feels right. It's a process.
All right, hold on. I have the newer copy.
Copy link, Kara, paste link. I don't know why I'm the go-between, but hey.
I don't know. Oh, look, I'm even getting messages from Willow myself, but because I've been on here, I haven't been paying attention. Nice. This is a new sentence, so it might need a capitalized.
Yeah, and it's like too close to the edge. The W.
Yeah.
Can we make the whole text like 1 point smaller?
You think that bottom line, the bottom 2 lines should be smaller text than everything else?
Well, the bottom line, it's touching too much toward the edge. Like it's right there. So like that's my whole reason.
I like this, the size. I like that this is bigger because it's capturing the attention. So, you know, the rest could be a little like maybe 1 point smaller. Because I don't want this to be too small either, because this is like kind of it's the call to action, it's the point. So I don't want that to be, but if it was matching and it's all a point smaller in here.
And what if the symptoms seem to pile up, and what are you going to do about it? What if that was together, like shift enter instead of enter? There's another one. Hang on.
I still need to capitalize that W, but I adjusted the size.
Nice. Yeah, that
I
looks
actually
a
seem
lot
to like
better.
that better. That seems to be much more balanced.
Mm-hmm.
The W still needs to be capitalized.
Yes, I already said that.
Oh, sorry, missed that. My brain was busy thinking about other things.
Awesome.
Do you think it would help if I had, so the putting holes in your drywall to triggered by small inconveniences, that is slightly bigger than the text below it. Should I make it the same size?
I wonder what it would look like instead of making it smaller, to put, instead of enter between them, to put shift enter so that they are really tight together.
I don't know how to do shift enter when I'm editing on my phone.
Mm.
I don't know either.
But I can
You
adjust.
do magic with your phone, so you know. You're doing well. Dude, is it so cold and down there as it is here?
I'm getting some sun. Look at that.
I'm supposed to go swimming, but my house is freezing.
It was all rainy and crazy rainy yesterday and into the night, and then now sun's out again today. So. Well, it's 10:30. How y'all feeling? Do you wrap up for today?
Does anybody have any work that they would like to question our brains about?
I would just say, once again, some serious gold here. This is a big episode in my mind. So I've learned a great deal.
Yeah, this is really good exposure.
Thanks, guys. This is because, like I said,
we got a last one from Willow.
Oh, thank you.
She just like
love it. All right. Da, da, da. Ooh, yeah, I like that. Well done.
Well done.
Mm-hmm.
That looks great.
And
Thank you.
Kudos to Willow, using technology to her advantage without having the, you know, full meal deal.
Mm-hmm. And the email's easy to read.
Maybe you should write a book about it, Willow. How to work just using your phone.
I love the background image you chose, by the way. That very much speaks to me.
Actually, that background image came from Pablo.
Oh, really?
He did his own version of mine, and which actually that's where most of the text came from, was a variation of what he had to say.
Ah, cool.
I have to give credit to him because I wouldn't have used a background like this if it hadn't have been presented to me, because I like the dark backgrounds.
Because you're the trauma.
But that's where, like, this at the same time, I love that, like, foggy kind of gloomy look, and then with like the tree that's, you know, and in that time of year it doesn't really have a whole lot of leaves on it. Like, I don't know, that speaks to me. I love it. And it's also, it does kind of still have like a dark element to it, which I like it. I think it's nicely balanced.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thanks for sharing. Anybody got something you'd like us to take a look at before we wrap up today? Well, we're going to be doing, what I'd like to do is so next week we'll do another feedback session. So that's what I'm thinking I'd like to do. It might change in the future, but for the time being, I'd like to do every other week doing those feedback sessions. So next week, be prepared to come bring what you're working on. We can give some feedback together and work as a group. And then the following week, we'll do another lesson.
And more on email automation and funnels.
Yes, and we'll actually...
we're doing social media, and then we're doing another one.
Yes.
So 4 weeks from now, there's going to be part 2 of funnels, social, or Automation. Goodness.
I know. We'll have to get together and actually plan that one. I mean, we do well. We do some planning for these, but
We do lots of planning. 10 minutes is plenty. And we did like half hour of planning. Can you imagine, Richard? We did like a full half hour of planning for this lesson.
Cool.
Richard's not going to encourage this kind of chaotic.
Well, this was awesome, and you know, and the thing that Rich put in here as well, you know, the idea of the combination of the ethos and the pathos and the logos, I think that was brilliant too. The statement in regard to the you know, Fred Rogers kind of unlocking the person with persuasion, I think is really a golden spot in this lesson for me. So great stuff.
I love the gems
All
that
right.
come out of these clinics, and it's, you know, it's not just me, it's not just Agnieszka, it's all y'all. We get some really awesome special gems coming out. All y'all.
And we're saying y'all in honor of Willow.
It just
Is
felt
all
right.
y'all, like, can we use that in copy? All y'all? Is that good?
Sure.
Oh, absolutely. There are clients where we definitely would want to use all y'all. Not many.
It's knowing your audience, right?
They're all in North Carolina.
All right, everybody. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and we'll see you again next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you all.
Thanks.
Great books in 30 minutes.
Thanks.
Bye, everybody. Great meeting.
Outstanding. Thank you, everyone.